All right, bro. We're in a pretty nice room today,
Yeah.
and season 2 has been a lot of fun so far. But the guest we have today is, I think, going to rock it out. It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, he's contributed a lot to the growth of Jacksonville. I'm anxious to ask him some questions about that and learn more about him.
I like the JU gear.
You like that?
I wonder why we're.
I mean, maybe it's a hint as to who's the guest is going to be here today.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the guest that we have today has been wise counsel to me, which is kind of cool to have people in Jacksonville that can help you along the way whenever you've got tough questions. Somebody who's been there before, and that's this guy. And his resume is insane. The way he's given back to this community and to this college is unparalleled. The people of Jacksonville don't know what he and Stephanie have done for Jacksonville and Jacksonville University. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that today. But so I'd love to introduce our guest, President Tim Cost. Is a dear friend of mine. You know, he's got a lot on the resume. He's all Fortune 500 companies, C-suite of everything. You know, he's summa cum laude when he graduated from JU. But I think probably best known for throwing a no-hitter here at Jacksonville University.
As a freshman, the only 9-inning no-hitter in the history of JU baseball. Am I right about that?
You're right. First of all, I can't let you go any further. Was there a sale at Baby Gap?
Yeah.
I mean, that is some of the coolest tiny shirts I've ever seen.
Before you know it, it's going to slide up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Gun show.
I was trying to get a wrestling singlet but they were all sold out, so I had to go with this shirt.
So,
welcome to campus,
President Tim Cost, welcome to Speakeasy, brother. It's great to see you.
DJ, to you.
Yes, sir.
Glad to be here. I've seen the other shows. They're great.
If you look at the glass, we got you a special Speakeasy glass, so enjoy having a sip with you and talking Jacksonville.
All right. As I said, I've enjoyed the other ones. Lots of friends in the area. I think you're doing a great service here. Kind of an interesting thing being on a college campus in 2025. So anything you'd like to talk about, let's go.
Well, one thing I love, and I mean, I want to get to your story to hear about what it was like for you when you were growing up and the crazy success you've had. But one thing that I noticed when I first started coming to visit you about once a quarter here on campus, we ride around on the golf cart. The students know your name and you know their names, and that's pretty special, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you guys were athletes in college, so this isn't Ohio State or Penn State with 50 or 60,000 kids. There's 4,000 students here. I went to school here myself, was born and raised in upstate New York, and I thought maybe I can help out in some way back when I was on the board. By the time you get this job in late 2012, why wouldn't you know everybody? I mean, we knew thousands and thousands of customers at these huge corporations. It's just a matter of, will you make the effort, or are you going to wave from your office? So you're right. Daniel's a bit of a rock star here when he comes in. People recognize him. And I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're calling us by name. They should know.
They're recognizing me because I'm riding in the golf cart.
Oh, that's me. That might be true. Yeah. But,
do you have any tips or tricks as to how you remember everybody's name? Because
yeah, that's a good question. I learned from the great matriarch of this university, Fran Kinney. I would watch Fran interact with someone, and then someone would come over to me and say, I can't believe she remembers my name 50 years later. And I thought, she didn't actually ever say it. She learned, what I have learned is you let people tell you their story. And they're like, yo, Prez, or something like that, which usually kind of passes for hello these days. And they start talking, and they said, you met my mom and dad, Mike and Kathy, when they were here. And I said, how is the whole family? And they start going, and eventually they'll come forward. But I'd say a good half the time I do know their name. The other third of the time, they help me a little bit. But I think most of the time, it's not whether or not you actually remember them. They're just happy that many of us went to school and never knew who the provost was, never met a chancellor, didn't know who the president was. And I thought a place like this one, you ought to have a very special connection to these students. I went here. I'm the first alum to have gone to this university, let alone play D1 sports for it, and be back. And we serve. I tell the students all the time, I work for you. If you're happy, you guys share the credit. If you're unhappy, reach my office. And when they're high schoolers, we give every single student that we're thinking of offering a scholarship to my cell phone number. And they use it.
That's incredible.
This coming weekend, I'm going to the wedding of a current member of the Board of Trustees who was a freshman when I came here. And that's the full arc 14 years later. And they don't abuse it. I mean, they don't want to talk to me on the phone. They want to text about something. It's great. It keeps me, I don't have to ask some staff person what the students are thinking. They'll tell me.
Yeah, most people in your position are taking care of the board members, which I know you probably do that as well. But can't imagine them giving their cell phone out. Why is it so important, beyond the fact that you're the president of JU, but to get to know people's stories that maybe you're only going to be here for 4 years and then they could or they might not ever contribute to the university again, but it's important for you. You're making it a priority.
Yeah, it's a good question. What their expectation, it's really not about what our expectation is. It's they believe now in completely flattening everything. They believe they can DM anyone, text anyone, reach anyone. Their ability to reach out to a governor, a president, or whomever is they have a very high expectation and a very tough BS meter. And what I found when you put those two together, when I first started doing it back in 2012 and 2013, I would give it out in a large gathering of the prospective incoming class, so 1,000 or more students, and nothing would happen. I mean, they didn't move. They didn't believe it. They thought it was a joke. And I said, it really is my cell phone number. When I do it now, while it's in my pocket, it will buzz. The last time I think we counted 79 text messages in the next 5 minutes.
Right.
Just to say, hey, I'm TJ from Palatka, or Yo Pret, and say, good, now we have a connection. And I always write them back. Let me know who you are. How do you like things? I invite them to my office. I mean, they're the natural things you would do that you all do if you're trying to build a real relationship, not just go on through time while I sit in my office. I'm blessed with a beautiful office that I inherited from others that looks right down over the main quad. So all day, every day, you can see them walking along. You can see the role of cell phones in their life change over time. So it's a great job.
It was clearly when he came to campus, he sent shockwaves. Because he said, I'm serving the students, not necessarily. The faculty is incredibly important, and you take very good care of them. But your position was, my customer is the student, and that's who I'm serving. And I know that there was a little bit going on there.
It depends on how you look at things. So in every situation like this, relationship, there's a client, the one who pays, and there's the customer, the one who consumes the service. In most universities in America, the client is a parent who's paying. Most 18-year-olds are not paying if you just do undergrad. And then the one who's consuming the service, living the life, is the student. Yeah. And higher ed historically, and I'm in my 14th year here, most university presidents now last about 4 years. That's the new median. So it's a challenging time in higher ed. But that idea that we would take into account what some 17, 18, or 19-year-old thought or wanted. This building you're sitting in is the result of a regular conversation with freshmen and sophomores back in 2013 and 2014. This is the former president's house. It's now the River House. When I was a student athlete, if you got good enough grades, you got to have lunch with the president right here in his house. Wow. And so it had been boarded up for years. I mean, universities like ours that are 92 have a million stories like this. And I took this job, and it was no less than Preston Haskell himself. We flipped over a garbage can, and we were sticking our heads up into the ceiling here to see if this was a building we should keep or tear down. And he said, it's got good bones. And so we took it all the way down to what it is today. And you were at the opening, 10 years ago. And we gave this building to the student body. And we had this big blow. We had almost 1,800 people there that night out back here. And the students kept saying, like, what is it? I said, your house. I can afford. Higher ed is very big on giving presidents houses, which I'm not for. So I said, I'm a corporate guy. I can buy my house, buy my car. Don't worry about all that stuff. Let's take this house and let's give it 22 television screens and the Cantina Laredo down here and conference rooms. You use it for whatever you want. It's now the busiest building on campus. So that to me is kind of what, if you were going to create a relationship with an 18 to 24-year-old cohort, not just take their tuition money, you would do exactly the same thing. That's
putting your money where your mouth is. It's not lip service. It's actually, and there's students, in here who walked into the bar, and there's people just hanging out in there.
No, this is just beautiful, and it's your vision. I'm really proud, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. A lot of times these days, sort of energy gets translated into vision. I love your passion. I love your whatever. I think if you move, in our case, the student, and we're blessed. I love the faculty. We're blessed. They're very talented, tons of PhDs. They want to teach. But if it becomes about sort of the greater glory of a president or a gazebo or a garden or a building or a donor, it is so easy to lose your way. And so I remember coming here as a board member in 2009. I was with PepsiCo at the time, and coming out and getting an email. I don't think anybody texted back then. And it was a fellow board member saying, I think it's great how much you like to mention the students. And I thought, I wonder what the hell they've been talking about.
Right.
I mean, what else would a board, if what you really want is students to be able to come here, thrive here, retain here, graduate here, and go on and fulfill their dreams. I mean, all this other stuff is ancillary. So we made a big deal out of not ranking 1 to 10, but move the student into the center of what it is we're doing, and things revolve around them. And that's both undergrads and grads. And if you think back to your own college experience, if you knew that swimming pool, the new dining facility, the medical school, the law school, this building, all flowed from conversations with students. Everything. It's sort of, why would I go ahead and put in Cantina Laredo as opposed to a Chick-fil-A there? It's because they already won the war. I gave them a Chick-fil-A on the other side of campus, but I lost that one. But just listening to them, I think they appreciate it. They have very high expectations. 2025, 18 to 24-year-olds want to be heard, and we're here to listen to them.
Yeah. Wow. That's how you would treat your customers back in the day whenever you were.
I think that's it doesn't mean you get it right all the time,
right? Because
it's not as though they're a uniform body.
Right.
It's like saying the faculty want, the students want, the union wants, but they don't all want the same thing. So there are times, we set aside something like $300,000, and some people would like us to put in a new salad bar, and others want us to put in a new healthcare center. Okay. Both needed.
Right.
Make a choice. So I'm not going to put that to a vote of 18-year-olds, but you go ahead and you prioritize things. How can you help the most students, not just a golf team or a basketball team?
And if you have a track record already of listening and trying to meet the needs of the students. So, if there's something that does arise where, you have to go a different direction than maybe what they would want, you already have that relational equity. They know that you've thought this through and you really do have their best interests in mind.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think what happens is it kind of passes down through time. The first person to want to have a detailed discussion about what you just described, TJ, is usually a parent. So in other words, they want to come visit. We have a very high batting average if people come visit us that end up coming to school here, considerably above the national average. National average is about 30%. So if they come here, it doesn't mean they get to hang out with me and they feel all glowy. They get to hang out with our students. We make sure that every ambassador who takes them on a tour is a current student. And I don't script them. They can say whatever they want. By the time I meet the parent and the prospective student, they seem to know a lot about the university or me or my wife's story or whatever. And that's, you create these connections. This is a so-called small university, 4,200 students from almost all 50 states and 30 foreign countries. So it's a global university, and we're thrilled to be here in Jacksonville. It's a good academic environment here in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So let's back up and talk a little bit about you. We want to hear your story. How did you end up where you are today, and where did it start?
Yeah, as I mentioned, athlete, played everything growing up, probably like you guys. I mean, it was your ticket out. I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York, which is mostly known for snow. I used to say I had a couple of seasons each year, snow and then ground repair. And that was sort of this, if you were going to get out of Syracuse, New York as a middle class or lower middle class jock, you were either going to play your way out of it or you were going to find somebody who could help you out. And that was my thing. I was an athlete and had different opportunities to play different of the three major sports in different places. And my dad had always said to me, all the best baseball players in America are in Texas, California, or Florida. I didn't know anything. Never been to any of them. There was no internet. I mean, try to tell today's kids.
Right.
They said, well, did you like it when you first looked at it on the website? I said, not in 1977. I didn't. No such thing. Came down, played ball here, had a good go. Real good go. And then I was a corporate guy. Went and got my MBA in finance and economics at a really good school and made my way through corporate, larger companies, mostly focusing, my background's finance and economics, on what the world now calls M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Ended up going through a lot of the really large healthcare companies and then ultimately PepsiCo, which was a monster, which was a blast. That's when I was invited onto the board here. Write some checks, raise some money. One thing leads to another. I'm sure I shot my mouth off in a boardroom. And somebody said, if you know so much, why don't you throw your hat in the ring? And I was like, damn. So here we are. So completely stopped the business career that Stephanie and I had going. She had started 2 companies of her own, worked at a couple of Fortune 500s. We were living in the Northeast, Philadelphia and Greenwich, Connecticut, which is near PepsiCo, and chucked it all. Came down here the Christmas of 2012. And I've said this a million times, including my friends I worked with in the Fortune 100. Best decision we ever made. I mean, if you really believe you have something to give, and the world will decide if you do, then it's not just adding zeros to your bank account. Go give back, give your time. We left our church, we left our families that were there, we left our chamber, we left our jobs, and we'd love. I'd do it again in a minute.
What was it about JU in particular? One thing, a few things. What brought you here? Because I'm sure you had opportunities to go many other places, given your pedigree and your background. And
you mean in my early days as a student?
No.
This time around?
Yeah.
No, there was. That's a great question, because some of the board remembers. They were reminding me yesterday at a little event we had that I said, and I mean this, at the end of this interviewing process back in 2012. You get your closing comments, and I said, look, I have no interest in being university president. I mean, you called
me. Great sale.
You called me. I love this university. This place changed my life. I met people. I heard accents. I saw things. I never saw this much sun in my life. I have no interest in being a university president, but I'm interested in helping my alma mater. And if this is the way you guys want me to help it, I'm glad to do it. Think twice. This is what they reminded me of, because I said, I make a lot more money working at PepsiCo than I'm ever going to make here. And I'll be able to continue to. And so they took a vote, 31-0, to offer me the role. And we took it on the spot and came down a couple of weeks later. So it was not, hey, I'm tired of working in large corporations where you have an awful lot of things that are amenities to your benefit. And I loved it. And that's how we'd been wired for 32 years, Stephanie and I. Raised our family up there in the Northeast. It was this, as I went higher and higher in companies, I got further and further away from young talent. I mean, they wouldn't, by the time I got to PepsiCo, I literally never was allowed to spend any time or meet with groups of people that were in the first 10 years of their career. Why would you? Tim, we have a whole HR department there. I mean, and I said, but see, I like to mentor. I like to coach. I like to be coached. But, that athletic side of all of us, you're used to being around the younger. And I was coaching my own son and daughter. They were young. And the further up you went, the more they made sure that never happened. Like you never signed a document that was less than $10 million. That's how big those companies are. Here, you feel the bump, you feel the bumps in the road when you hit them. Yeah, which
2,500. We're gonna have to check that. So.
I go down to $25. Yeah. So that's how we got here.
So you mentioned Steph a couple times. I was in Leadership Jacks with her. Got a chance to meet her way back in the day. Definitely a bright shining star for Jacksonville, and she's jumped right in. Tell us a little bit about how you met her and what started off the relationship.
Sure. Like every couple that's married 43 years, since I'm not 90 yet, she and I went to high school together.
Wow.
And she was really smart and funny and really good looking. And I was a jock. And so you played on that as much as you could. We started dating both of our senior year in 1977 during basketball season. She was out on the floor and I was playing. And we stayed together all through 4 years here. She went to school up north. I went to school down here. We saw each other because baseball takes up most of the year. You're only home for 6 weeks a year, 8 weeks a year. So that refreshed the relationship. I didn't have to burn those 4 years when I didn't know anything. And then we got married when we were 22, and we've been together ever since. So we've been together 48 years. And there's 100 things about her. We won't make this too much about her, but she is like your wife. They're so smart and so interesting and so interested in what other people are doing. And then she and I started down a pretty concentrated game plan of philanthropy. And we were trying to help where we saw diseases or people who needed help or universities or down the line. So a lot of the investment we made was here on campus. And she is aggressive. She says all the time she believes in reverse tithing. I only get to keep 10% of my money. And she's not kidding around. So she's been great.
The university paycheck is so big, you can probably live on it.
Yeah, we're State University. Yeah. So no, you don't. If you're doing stuff for money or ego or any of that sort of thing, stay in corporate America.
Yeah.
I can prove that. And This is so much more rewarding and gratifying to be around these young. I mean, you're around them. They love hollering to you. When they found out kind of what you did, if you remember, they circled. They wanted to talk all about it. They want to be where you two guys are. They mean, how do I get from being a 19-year-old sophomore from San Diego, and I'm playing the volleyball team, and I'm majoring in finance, and I want to be blank, blank, blank. Is there really such a thing as the boardroom? Is there really, I want a seat at the table. I mean, they want to. I do a ton of these things with students all the time. Doors always open. That's what they want to talk about. What's it like in the real world? And the kid who comes to JU is a strong student, but they didn't pick us over Princeton. They didn't pick us over Harvard. It might have been, our like minds are Stetson and Rollins and Tampa, Wake Forest and Vanderbilt and that. So that's the kid. There are a lot of times kind of a Northeastern, Midwestern, especially athletes, got 550 Division I athletes here and an undergraduate group of 3,000, which is the richest mix of athlete in general. And the new numbers just came out last week. Their cumulative grade point average is 3.52.
Wow.
And that's just stunning. That's our athletic director, Alex Ricker-Gilbert. So that stuff is that Stephanie's role, what I'm supposed to do in keeping the focus on the students. You can make this a whole pitch about the university. That's what I think is the role of the good small university. Yeah. That's the role. It's very different. This is a great city. We love working with UNF. We love working with FSCJ. I love working with Edward Waters. We do stuff with Flagler and Kaiser, and it's all great. We have a different role to play. We should be attracting from all around the world, and we're trying to constantly re-recruit them to stay once they graduate.
And we should be creating an opportunity in Jacksonville where they'd be crazy to leave, to go somewhere else, because the opportunities are so vast here.
I mean, what you're doing, I'm very, very familiar. I sit on your board and I chaired Jax USA, I think, for a few years. That idea of when you come here as an 18 or 19-year-old, they're so much more savvy about, can you help me get that first practicum deal, that first place where I can work during the summer, preferably someplace I work. Do you know the guys at FIS or CSX? And I always make the same point to them. Take my network, which has been in existence for 45 years at a lot of really good corporations and now serving here, and attach it to yours. You're 19 years old and you want to know if you can go work at RF Smart. And we know the people there. And when I'm stumped, I call you, Daniel, and we say, what can we do? Now, can you scale that? So it's not one-offs all the time. So it's 500 students from here, and that's when the thing really works. You have programs but they don't know enough to plug into them. And we're constantly looking to get them what they want to go. And they're thinking, when I graduate from here, I either want to go on to grad school or want to get a great job. My job is to help them either go to grad school here or UNF or wherever. Or if you want a really great job, and tell me what your field is, tourism and hospitality, here we go. PGA Tour, Jaguars, baseball. They rarely come up with something, and I have to say, damn, we don't do that in Jacksonville, Florida. Sure we do.
Is that one of the reasons you're involved with so many boards? I know you love the community and you want to invest in it beyond just JU, but again, looking at your resume and your bio, you have chaired and are chairing and are a part of so many different organizations, boards, civic organizations. What is the passion there for that?
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of these young folks think what you're doing is you're burnishing your resume. Like at this point in my career, I'm 66. You're not trying to make your resume. Nobody looks at your resume at this point. I've always thought, and it started when Stephanie and I were in New York together working in the hometown of Kodak, which was the world's most admired company at the time. What if the corporate guys and ladies, what if they don't get involved? What if we really leave this to the people who are doing this entirely volunteer? So she and I started to get involved. People end up asking you to run for things. You know how that feels and that. And so by the time we got down here, if it's worth remembering, in 2012, when I was voted to do this, I didn't know anybody in Jacksonville. Daniel was one of the very first people. He reached out to me. I'll never forget that. So you don't know anybody, and you're the private university in Florida, in Jacksonville. So we started down this path of where can we help? How about Renew Arlington? Well, it didn't exist, so we made it up. And what about the chamber? Daniel, should I be on, Visit Jax? What do you think about the Civic Council? And little by little, you say, okay, I can't do every mosh and comer, but maybe I can help the symphony. I think you have to be humble enough to know, usually if you can't help, people say, we're all set, thanks, we got one of you. But Jacksonville, I'm giving this speech coming up, has been so unbelievably welcoming that any time there was whether it was WJCT or whether it was the Players Council, if you said, hey, I did a little bit of this in New York or Philly, or I lived in Washington, D.C., people go, yeah, come on aboard. And I'm telling you, in cities like Philadelphia, where we moved from, you're waiting 20 years before somebody new to town is allowed to just come on to the Chamber of Commerce board. Are you kidding? I chaired Jack's USA. I think I've been in town about 4 years. So those are I thought the town still is so welcoming to new talent. I mean, look at Moez at UNF. Look at, you're going to meet the new gentleman at Florida Blue, Brian Pinnock, who's a huge talent. And they're going to be welcomed in and they're going to engage. We all do. That's how it happens. Yeah.
And I know just through the community that you do have a passion for the arts, even though you were an athlete. You know, I was involved with the children's course and doing the Dancing with the Stars thing this past year. And I know that you support that heavily. How did you get into that lane, being that you're such an athlete? Were you also in the arts?
He's a Renaissance.
I was going to say, is there something you don't do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was blessed to live in some incredible cities. When you're in Manhattan, Philadelphia, ultimately Washington, D.C., you know, the ability to go to the Kennedy Center or the quality of that. When we came down here, it's interesting, when I told all my colleagues at PepsiCo, which was in New York, that I was coming down to take this, the CEO's reaction, it's funny, you're already laughing, but the CEO's reaction was, you're 50 or whatever I was, why are you doing this now? Do this when you retire. And I said, see, the difference is you went to Yale. And you're positive where Yale's going to be 15 years from now. I want to see if I can help in the short term.
That's good.
And then the idea of people said, honest to God, they said, like, do they have like an orchestra down there? Is there like, I said, what are you talking about? It's not Wyoming in the 1840s. I mean, this is back then I said it was a top 20 city. Now it's a top 10 city. And Stephanie and I have always had a passion for the full range of the arts. We've sat on many boards. You bring up boards because it's a direct way you can signal to the leadership that you're interested in helping. They know to ask for money, or you try to raise money. But this combination of arts offerings in this city took me a minute to kind of get in my head. And then once we did, you know, it's a passion. The one textbook I took from college when I graduated was an arts textbook, believe it or not, because it had in it was one of these 600-page versions. It was like, that's how you figured out Manet from Monet and what's a Matisse and what's it, because I hadn't really been exposed to that. I grew up in a family that wasn't as into the arts. So between Stephanie's interest and mine, that's how we got there.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your corporate trajectory. I mean, it took off pretty quick, and you went very far. Had some incredible experiences at worldwide companies that everybody knows the name. How did that work? Did you have a big break, or did you just work your ass off the whole time and get where you were that successful? Yeah,
thanks. As a gag gift several years ago, Stephanie gave me a frame, a long, thin, vertical frame that's a place for business cards. At least she made it one. And she found, I think it's the 10 business cards throughout my career. And at the bottom of it, she wrote me a note that said, my mom always wondered why you couldn't hold a job. And it was, it was Kodak, and then there was Bristol-Myers, and it was Wyeth and Pfizer and J&J and Aramark and PepsiCo. And my thing, your memory is really good. I caught some huge breaks early on. I'd come out of Little JU and Kodak, which was a Fortune 10 company at the time, created a program where they hired 4 college students a year into this very special program. We were all in each other's weddings, and it was cool. Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, and Jacksonville. Wow. And I remember meeting them sort of, I didn't look as good as you guys look in these tiny t-shirts, but I said, in the very near future, you're all going to be working for me. Ooh. And they were just sort of like, eh. And I thought, wow, they went to such good schools, and they were so much smarter than I was. But in fairly short order, that's kind of what happened. It had always broken their way. And if you come here in the 70s, like probably where you guys went, you got to hustle. So caught some breaks, got the eye of some, what we used to call headhunters, search firms, started to move around, started doing deals. And that was my forte, working with bankers and lawyers and consultants, and started to put together these, in those days, $10 billion deals. Ultimately, we did a couple of $100 billion deals. And that became an attractive thing to have in your portfolio.
Yeah.
And then CEOs in other places said, well, we could take that and we could put it together with this, 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 and this. And it became this kind of package of skills you were supposed to have. I think more than anything, it was, would you work hard? Would you be humble? Would you be of service? Would you create value? It was not, you're our star quarterback. So I caught a lot of breaks. That was incredibly exciting. And that was, as I may have mentioned earlier, Stephanie and I saw that was how we were wired.
Yeah.
There were lots of events. You had to travel all around the world, although you traveled pretty well. I mean, there was a work ethic that by the time I got to PepsiCo, their expectation was 100 hours a week. That was not that unusual as we were just getting into the technology we carry today. So to dial it back at a university to 80, you can get a lot done. I mean, people always say, do I work harder or smarter? I said, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm sorry, but nothing beats, can you throw 5 more hours at that thing? That's a hard thing to try to teach today.
Yeah.
But of our generation, those of us that came out of school in the early 80s, as Reagan was taking over and the economy was starting to really pick up, that was kind of how it came together. So by the time we got all the way to PepsiCo, it was a great deal of combining things together, spinning things out, doing strategy. And I was blessed to work for one of the world's great leaders, Indra Nooyi, who wasn't at all.
I met her. Yeah.
Yeah, you were here on campus when she came here. But, for lunch, she would just say, the head of the SEC is coming by. Why don't you join us? Or, the head of the Fed is coming over to my house for dinner. Why don't you join? I mean, I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
What was the coolest thing you worked on at PepsiCo? Have anything that pops out?
Yeah. Let's see. If this is going to, because you asked, it's going to sound like you're name dropping, but there's no other way to get to the story. Okay. She and I each year would go to Davos, which is the World Economic Forum, where CNBC broadcasts from. It's sort of where all the news gets made. Everybody generally knows Davos. So I'm at Davos with her, and we are trying to buy the largest yogurt player in Russia. And if you think about how the Russian economy works, it's a nationalized economy. In other words, you're only dealing with one person. And the person we were dealing with, and we were in Davos, you're about to go out and give your remarks, which we all did. But they have green rooms, they have back rooms, green rooms, and we were to meet with the head of Russia at the time was not Putin. If you remember, there was a 2-year break, and a gentleman named Medvedev became the head of Russia. He was there, and we were meeting with him because there's no other way to say we want to buy a yogurt company called Wimbledon. Sounds like tennis, Wimbledon, because the people who started it were tennis fans. So we're getting ready for this meeting, which ended up going successfully. We ended up buying the company that got PepsiCo into yogurt. And my cell phone is buzzing, and I keep looking at it, and it's this 904 number, and I pick it up, and without saying who it was a JU board member who just wanted to talk about, like, hey, how you doing? Where are you? I said, I'm actually a little tied up right now. And that's when they wanted to talk to me about throwing my hat in the ring to be president here. So those two things
That's crazy.
collided in a way that I thought, I'm never going to forget this.
Yeah.
And there you are.
I thought for sure you were going to say Cindy Crawford. Wasn't she the spokesperson for Pepsi at one point?
But you got to remember, he's just been married 48 years. He doesn't
But you can
notice
talk
that.
about
He doesn't
that now.
notice that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
that's true.
Yeah.
You didn't see any of that. You didn't even know she was part of Pepsi.
She was. Yeah. When I was there, we were doing that area kind of eventually came under my purview, but we signed, for instance, Beyonce to do a world tour. I think we paid her $50 million. And, those were the days PepsiCo, the Coke v. Pepsi wars led you in a different direction. They had their polar bears at Christmas. We had Britney Spears and Michael Jackson. We were trying to be edgier, that sort of thing. The young generation. Yeah.
Well, the Cindy Crawford thing worked for me at the time. I think it was probably middle school, high school years.
And Michael Jackson lit his hair on fire. So that was
right.
He had a Pepsi can in his hand when that happened. So that works.
It was.
We're talking about it today.
There it is. They blew a torch off behind him in a dance commercial, and it lit his hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
So on one of our quarterly what do we call those when we're sitting out on the river? I don't know.
I think we're trying not to name them.
Okay, yeah. So we meet on a regular basis just to
Yeah.
get caught up on politics and what's happening in business. And, we started talking a little bit about his experience in New York, because I believe the shooter had just walked into NFL headquarters at the time, and that's where your office was.
345 Park, that's right. Yeah.
And you told, let's tell that story to lead into, I know it doesn't lead into 9/11, but I think 9/11 is a pretty interesting story too.
Okay.
So tell about what
these,
you were on.
These are, everybody listening, I'm sure, has interesting stories in their lives. This is not one I ever tell, but we're friends and you know it. So a month or two ago, if you go back, I was in town to host a dinner along with one other gentleman. I'm on the board of DuPont, and we were hosting a dinner of 75 experts in artificial intelligence. These are people who had started or currently run a company that did artificial intelligence. Average age of the room was probably 38, except me. It was just breathtaking. Anyway, got into town, into Midtown, and for years, my office was on Park and 51st, 345 Park Avenue. And my apartment was on 5th and 55th, so that was the corporate days. And so I thought, you know what? I got 45 minutes till this dinner. It's Midtown. It's beautiful. I'm going to just walk by my old office. The building, the Park Avenue building I'm describing, is the building that is always shown in the movies. Whenever you're seeing a rom-com with Rachel McAdams or Ryan Gosling or somebody, that's the building. It's beautiful. I thought, I'll go over there. I'll sit, enjoy the cool of the evening, then go do the dinner. So what Daniel's referencing is, as I walked over there, you're kind of thinking about this dinner you're going to host that night. And it's just getting louder and louder. Horns honking, sirens going. And I thought, damn, New York. I'd completely forgotten how loud New York is. Till I get to the corner, which is right where the hotel is, and I see there've got to be 25 police cars. Sirens going, people are pulling up, people are running all over, and I say to the guy, did somebody just get hit crossing this? And the guy's got his phone. This is a month ago. It goes like this, and he goes, "There's a shooter in there." So there's a shooter in 345 Park Avenue, and I look at my watch. It's 5:07. Okay. If you go back and read what happened, the shooter went in at 6:32 and started shooting, and I had this feeling. Like, I checked into my room, I called I screwed around for 20, 25 minutes, thank God, or you would have been in that. And I had that sinking feeling. My parents used to say there, but for the grace of God, that near missedness. And it did remind me of 9/11.
Yeah, so he was telling me this. We were enjoying a beverage on the riverfront, and he goes, but that's kind of reminds me of 9/11. I said, well, tell me about 9/11, because he was right there. And then he told me this next story that was insane. I'm glad you're here today, because thank God.
Yeah.
It could have been the other way.
You still got more work to do, apparently.
Yeah. I'm grateful and thanks. And I've never told that story, Daniel, so I'll do it real quick. My office was, as you know, on Park and 51st, and we were working on a big banking deal. That I was the point guy on. And the banker in this case that we were using was Bear Stearns, whose office was on the 96th floor of the South Tower. It's the night before the meeting. So it's a Monday, late afternoon, 4:30, 4:45. Back in those days, we didn't have today's technology. We had a day timer. Anybody remembers these great big notebooks? So I'm looking out the window. I got this, they're very nice, gave me this beautiful office. I look down and I yell out to my assistant, since when does the client have to go to the banker? It's 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and I got to go down to the towers. Tell them to get their ass up here. Yeah. They'll come up to Midtown. She's like, okay, I'll see if I can reach them. Okay, so today people did they text you? There's no text back then. So she gets a hold of a great guy, Joe Ricardo, Bear Stearns, and says, Tim wants the meeting up here. They bitch, but they say yes. They come up. As they walked in my office the next morning, Tuesday morning, September the 11th, it's 8:25, 8:28, whatever it is. And I get up off my desk and I go to shake hands with them, like, welcome, two guys. We know them both well. My two staffers come in. And he says, the guy from Bear Stearns says, what's that? And I looked over my shoulder and I have CNBC on around the clock. And they have this little stream of smoke coming out. And it says, I'll never forget this, Small private plane goes off course. So we're looking at it, we're talking about it, and he's saying, Jesus, I mean, right next to my building. And we're saying, well, it's good. I mean, whatever that is, there's just this little stream of smoke. And bam, the second plane hits his tower where I'm supposed to be right at that moment above 96. And we both looked at each other and I said, this meeting's over. I said, brother, I don't know when I'm going to talk to you again, but take care of your family. Everybody scatters and you're left with this, the rest of the morning sending your own people home. And that at that time, all of the messaging we were getting from the FBI and others is there's bombs under every bridge in New York. There's bombs in the subway. All right, we have no way to control. There's more bombs in the air. And so my CEO sort of said, make a call. He got inaugurated as the ambassador to Sweden about an hour later because he was pending to be an ambassador, but George W. Bush had determined no country in the world is going to be without an ambassador because we're at war now. So the CEO left, and it left me and another gentleman, and we looked at each other and said, we had people all the way up and down this very tall tower. Do we tell them hunker down, hide? Do we tell them go home? And we start making decisions on the fly. And it's humbling because it took me the rest of the day and into the night to get back to Philadelphia. And all that time, cell phone technology didn't work. So I had to not connect.
And Stephanie didn't know where you were.
Stephanie didn't know. And they went into the two schools where my two children were going to school. And they said, there's been a bombing in New York City. We haven't been able to reach your dad, but you're going to come out of school now. That's how my two kids found out about it. So nobody meant harm by it. But It's just chilling in those days and weeks afterward to say, what caused me to even glance down at the daytimer?
Yeah.
I mean, I had meetings all the time in that tower. And I ended up going to, I don't remember, a dozen funerals from people from Cantor Fitzgerald and Bear Stearns and others. So it's humbling to be back. Now you say, let's all serve.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to work, get back to what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, circling back to how you're so involved in the community. I mean, that probably played a major role, just realizing what's actually important. The deals are important, but the people are more so important.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
If you're given a few breaks like I've been, or you get to make $1 or $2 and you can give it back, there's nothing like that, those moments, DJ, where you're saying like, what? It was not a complete existential moment. Why am I here? But sort of like, there is so much more we wanted to do than to see if we could get a 10% raise instead of a 5% raise. Because I'm going to watch my buddy Buried that I used to play golf with. And all he was doing is running a meeting where people, so many people, if you knew people of that era, most of the chilling stories about near miss stories like the one I just told. People, they were supposed to be there, they missed the subway, something happened that they're still around to tell the story. And the fact that nearly 3,000 Americans died that day has stayed with me forever. And we just passed the 24th anniversary. And even to this day, I do not hold meetings on 9/11. People like, how about lunch on the 11th? I'm like, no, I got to spend a little time on what it is I'm supposed to be doing.
Can we shift gears?
I mean,
you asked.
It's sobering for sure. One thing you said at the beginning of the first story made me think to ask you this question. AI. What role do you see that playing in education, higher education? What do you have stuff that you're working on as far as JU is concerned? Are there degrees coming in that? Obviously, it's something that's here to stay. Kind of like the internet. We're sure it's here to stay. But what does that look like for you? How has that process been?
Yeah, important question. And if you got like 3 hours, I'm glad to get into it with you. But let me give you the bullet on it. The state of Florida is blessed that it has the fastest AI supercomputer in the country at a university I won't name at the moment, only because we're getting close to signing an agreement with them to be their private university partner. Oh, wow. But brilliant stuff. I mean, this is going to be a mega hundreds of millions of dollars investment challenge for every university for a long time into the future. On the corporate boards I sit on, it's already a game changer in terms of your ability to reduce costs, take the back office out, take links out of the supply chain. It's pretty breathtaking. I was around when the internet came to be. And I can remember saying, do you suppose we'll ever shop on this thing? And then it's like, Amazon's only a bookstore. I mean, you could see this coming pretty fast. I think we're dealing with something massively more impactful than that. And so it's right for businesses, companies, governments, places like the Chamber to turn to universities and say, where do you think this is going? Are you going to teach it? Yes and yes. And let's see how fast we can, rather than ride behind it, behind the ChatGPT, OpenAI, that whole group of, what's happening at Claude right now. It's can we begin to make sense out of it? UNF's doing a really nice job. We've got a lot of efforts here that look a little different than theirs. And I think the biggest thing for if you're a college, university like we are, we have 5 colleges and 11 schools and 4 institutes inside the university, is that it looks clear to me that it's going to impact people's ability, what kind of job they're going to get in the first 5 years. If you're you all and you've got all this skill and training and special capabilities, or if you're me and you've got some niches to fill, that's different than if you're 21 or 22 and you're coming out. I mean, lots of jobs that were huge when I was in school, you're going to go be a pharmaceutical sales rep, that job's gone. I mean, a lot of the jobs that are routinized, repeatable, that have heavy sweat equity, a lot of those are getting disintermediated, as they like to say, by AI. And that's what we're working on, because you're seeing unemployment levels higher for 22 to 27-year-olds than you are for those 10 years older than that. It's real. It's on top of us. The place I see the most explosive impact, TJ, is healthcare.
Okay.
If you talk to the Mayo Clinic and Baptist, you talk to Florida Blue and Brooks about the role of AI, it is remarkable what they're able to do, so that you and I, our idea of a hospital or personalized healthcare is going to be significantly different 2 years from now than it is today.
But you still need nurses.
Right? Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, we do. I mean, nursing's our largest major. We've got almost 900 nurses here at a university of 4,200. We've got all the best. We're thrilled with our partners. 2 days ago, Friday, we were named the #1 accelerated Bachelor of Nursing school in the state of Florida, which is great. I wouldn't have remembered that if you hadn't reminded me. But that idea of kind of that's the back to the what's the level of customer care? I talk to a lot of people and I say, whenever you're in, even for routine, ask the nurse where they went to school. Because we're so fortunate that whether it's Ascension or Advent or Baptist Health or especially Brooks and the Mayo Clinic, they hire so many JU nurses. And we think we've got a pretty good way of doing that. So we get these high rankings. That's going to be big for a long time. And just like pilots, there's a massive imbalance between supply and demand, massive.
The way I see it, and the experts I talk to, is you're still going to need the nurse or the pilot. This is just going to make the nurse or the pilot 10 times more efficient than they are today.
The people who, and you're at a little kind of blip moment, you probably maybe seen it where you are, Daniel, you're in a blip of increased investment as people are trying to figure out, what is this thing? What can it be? So at the moment, it's not letting everybody cut costs. It's letting a lot of people say, I got to study this, see what it means. Yeah. And then you get where you were just taking it, that whole types of jobs go away, but those jobs that are sort of very closely customer facing are going to get enhanced with these tools. And look, it's exciting because the nice thing is if you got 5 men or women around who have my job title, you're going to get 5, not just different answers, different strategies of how to approach it. A Stanford or a Duke are going to do different than a Michigan or a Penn State, different than us. And we see the chance to be kind of a free rider, a close fast follower for a while with a large partner, and then kind of duck in there at the same time we're doing negotiations with corporations. And hopefully all that makes the home team more valuable to the chamber. You think about the chamber or Jax USA going out, it's got the UF brand it can work with now. But to say that all these universities, JU and UNF and EWU and FSCJ, that we all are good at this and we can get into this kind of the knowledge economy, which is really human triggered knowledge. It's not just going to be purely artificial or augmented. That's got to help what we're trying to recruit to town.
It's exciting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're trying to recruit just like you are all the time.
We're dialing in on time. Seems like we just sat
crazy.
down.
It's gone by that fast.
I don't even think we finished. Yeah, but there we go. Well,
we do ask a couple questions of all of our guests. And one of them is obviously the folks that we have on the show are in pretty cool jobs, but that doesn't mean they've always had a really cool job. And we've all had to, look at the toughest job we had or have ever had, or the hardest job, or maybe the most grueling that TJ and I would do over the summers. Do you have one that pops out?
Sure.
That you did?
We all, in that generation, so you're talking about the mid-'70s, we all either worked landscaping or construction.
Right.
I did those. We worked all day with your shirt off, but I didn't look like you guys in those. Did I mention the tiny shirts you're wearing?
We need to get Gap Kids to be a sponsor on the...
There was a period of time where if you went to a football game, somebody was walking up and down yelling peanuts, popcorn. Mm-hmm. That was me. I was 14.
No way.
14, 15,
you were the beer
16.
Guy?
By the time I was 17, I was the beer guy. I worked every concert. I saw the Jackson 5 and the Rolling Stones. Anyway, that idea of hustling up and down stairs for at the end of the night, and the guy might give me $15 or something, and I'd have been there for 6 hours. Come to find out years later that company that I was working for was Aramark, who I ended up becoming the executive vice president of in Philadelphia 20 years later, 30 years later. So that's the one, because it was just pure muscle, just hustle, hustle, hustle. Strap the thing around your neck and carry 50 12-ounce Coca-Colas or Pepsi-Colas back then. So, yeah.
So if you sold more, did you make more?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And the punchline there is I'm working the Beach Boys concert, just turned 15. And the next day in school, cute brunette comes up to me and says, my sister and I saw you at the Beach Boys concert last night. Stephanie Lake, now Stephanie Cost.
Oh,
okay.
I'm not kidding.
So that's a home run. These stories don't seem, they just...
Yeah. Are you sure you're not making some of this stuff up?
Check with her. Yeah.
She's like, you know what? I want to date the beer guy.
Yeah. It was all cash back then, too. But yeah, that was it. You guys probably had jobs just like that.
Oh, yeah. We
worked for the phone company, dug lines, ran a ditch witch, all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Builds character, right?
You betcha.
Well, it does. And I want my kids to go through that. I don't want them to be soft. I want them to be, ready to take on the tough things that they're going to take on in life. And I think those add value and they make them hungry. Like you were hungry to climb that ladder when you're dealing with a bunch of Ivy League kids that were probably soft. And it's just not a fair competition.
Yeah, they just had a different upbringing. Warren Buffett always said he wanted to do for his kids enough that they could do anything in life, but not so much that they do nothing in life. And that's that we all get the challenge there. Can you thread that needle and keep them hungry and motivated? Because it's easy to get entitled anymore.
So we got to dial this in. Yeah. We're already over time, but it's been incredible with great stories that I think the people of Jacksonville are going to love. And I just wanted to say, listen, I've been fortunate to know you since you've been in Jacksonville. And I have a little bit of an idea of what you and Stephanie have sacrificed to serve our city and our great community and the vision that you've had and the amount of money that you've given to this place. But not just money, it's the time, and who knows where you would be right now if you stayed in corporate America. And it's just super cool to have you here and to be able to call you a friend. And I just wanted to make sure I said that to you. Because we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Right back at you. You're one of my best friends, and I'm honored to have been invited today. God bless, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Enjoy. Thanks, fellas.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Speakeasy Jacks. If you enjoyed the conversation, follow us on our social media platforms, share it with a friend, and make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.